Greetings and salutations once again. Charlton 66 Steve back with you again after that short video I did on my AOK from Scoon's Comics. I want to talk about a couple things I didn't want to take away from the AOK, so I just make a second video on this stuff. A few things that I want to say. We got a few things in the mail from Amazon. Let me get it here. I should have had this stuff set up. One of the things I did get, which I recommend, is this book. I just finished reading it. It's called Regards Ditko, and it's about this individual, the author, Jason Chawala. I think that's how you say his last name. Had a correspondence with Steve Ditko through the last few years of his life, and there was a relationship that developed with this correspondence. Again, as you know, if you don't know, Steve Ditko was reclusive. He didn't do interviews. He didn't sign anything for fans. If fans wrote to him, his address was available. His office was accessible, but it was very matter of fact type of correspondence, and it'd be one or two lines on a piece of paper if you wrote to him and you get anything back. But this guy Jason, who wrote the book, was more than just wanting to talk to him about comic books. He wanted to find more what makes him tick, on his philosophies and the way he thinks about life in the world. So they started his correspondence with letters. And throughout the letters, he writes at the end of the book, the letters are all transcribed, but as you read the book, he talks about his relationship with Ditko and what he learned about him and what he learned himself that Ditko brought out from him. So it's a very interesting read. It's a fun read. I read it in one setting. Not that I'm this ultra fast reader, but I was enthralled with the book. We can all relate to his summers of discovering comic books, his summers with his friends, things that they did, what comic books meant to him, what they mean to him. I mean, he's still collecting comic books, but it's a very good book. I recommend it. If you're a Ditko fan, this is right up your alley. It's a very good book. I think it was only like $12 or $13. It wasn't much. The price tag's not even on this. I got off of Amazon. Obviously, you can't go to the stores, but there's no pictures in it other than a couple of snapshots of the author and some of his friends at the end of the book, and Ditko's office door, which people have seen before. And with that, I went to I showed this before, but I'll show it again since we're talking about Ditko and that book. It's awesome, and I recommend this as well. Not just this particular issue, but Alter Ego. I've talked about it before on my channel. If you're into comic books, the history of comics, people who are there, people who are in the know, this is highly recommended. But there's a picture of Steve Ditko in here, close to the end of his life. Let's see. I showed this before. I didn't think about showing this until now, so I would have marked the page. But Ditko is a phenomenal individual, onto himself, the way he thinks. Almost flawed in certain aspects, the way he thinks about certain things. And once you read that book, you'll see he's kind of contradicting himself in certain aspects of it, but it's entertaining nonetheless. He's a human being. I mean, not that that he's better than us because he's a great comic book artist. I mean, he does have his flawed, way he thinks about certain things. Again, it's all opinion. I like how he thinks. I wish I can stick to my guns the way he did about his principles and the way he thinks about life. I wish I could be as staunch in my beliefs and the way I think about things as Steve Ditko was. But this is one of the last few pictures of Steve Ditko going into his office with Bernie Bubdis. He didn't let anyone take pictures of his office, but he had the office for many years, and there's a map of his office layout somewhere in this publication. But it's an excellent issue. If you into Ditko and comic book history, alter ego. This is number 160 from September of 2019. You can get it on the website if you're so inclined to pick that up. But again, this book is called Regards Ditko. It's an awesome read. I think people will enjoy it. They can relate to it pretty much because the guy who reads is a collector, and we can relate to his summer times discovering comic books and what comic books mean to him and what certain artists mean to him. At a very young age, he realized Ditko was his guy. So, like a lot of us, when we're younger, we find an older artist that we glom onto. I was the same way with Kirby, Ditko, Colin, Ayers. I was very, very young, but I recognized I like these guys, and the earlier stuff is very expensive or hard to get a hold of, that kind of stuff. So again, Regards Ditko, very cool book. Along with Ditko, which I don't know why these are not flying off the shelves. I mean, they could be, I don't know, because I get them off of Amazon. But this is I'll do Ditko first. This is Steve Ditko in Outer Space from Charlton Neo Comics. It's just nothing but Steve Ditko Outer Space stories, which is just phenomenal. For $8.99, you get this nice package. You get where the comics they come from, what the name of the stories are. Just a nice anthology of Steve Ditko science fiction stories. Look at this. This is just pure Ditko. And this is stuff that he did before he was with Marvel. Again, I don't know why these are not flying off the shelves. They do a nice package. It's well put together. There are 10 stories in this. They're like $8.99, something like that. And people are paying that kind of money for recent comic books, which, in my opinion, does not hold a candle to what's in these pages. So, got that. Also picked up this awesome Violent Crimes, all Charlton crime comics. This is awesome cover from Crime Busters Suspense Stories number 11. Lawbreakers Suspense Stories 11. That's what it is. If you see right there, he's got tongues in his hand. He cut out tongues. This freaking wacky dude here. Those are tongues he cut out. This is the cover. Charlton had some very violent covers in their earlier books, and this is probably the only time I'm going to own this cover or this copy. It's expensive. It's an expensive book to have the original one, and it's very hard to come by. But it's again Charlton goodness here. Again, this is like $8.99. Charlton Neo Group. Go to Mortod, www.mortod, morttodd.com, and you can probably order more of these. But again, it's got in the beginning where the stories are, where they come from. Nice anthology. I just don't know why. Again, these should be flying off the shelves. Got Severed Head, got Dog Discovering a Severed Head. You got a lot of good stuff in here. There's a crazy dude with the tire. There's a crazy dude with all the tongues in his hand. Again, this is Violent Crime #1 from the Charlton Neo group. This should be on everyone's list as far as I'm concerned. If you're into comics and the comic book history, artwork, the works, this company should be you should be buying stuff from this company. I don't have any affiliation with them. I'm just saying how good they are. I don't think there are too many comic book companies that are putting out things like that other than Craig Yo, who are really Charlton heavy in their output on reprints and the history of the company. And again, you get some cover gallery in here. Lawbreaker Suspense Stories. Yeah, this is number 13. This is from number 11. This cover here, which I don't think they have. No, Lawbreaker Suspense Stories number 12. I guess this gives us number 11 here, but it's not called Violent Crimes. Again, it's called Lawbreaker Suspense Stories, and it's just good stuff. Good stuff. Highly recommend it. In fact, I think what I like to do, I think when this thing's over with, this COVID thing's over with, I like to buy a bunch of issues, just have like a raffle or something. Just have people who email me first. I'll send them a copy of it. Just get the word out to help them, get the comics out there they're producing to fans. I think once someone gets them, they're gonna realize how cool they are. Another thing I want to touch on really, really fast. I was on a live chat with Howler Mouse and Jared Osborne, I think last weekend, and we were talking about Tom Scully, and we were talking about Godland and everything. And I remember the comic book that came out called Opus 8, or Myth of 8 Opus, not Opus 8, 8 Opus, and Oedipus. I'm looking at the title now, and I think it's 8 Opus or Oedipus. Anyway, no one ever heard of it, and I could have sworn I had a copy, and I didn't know for sure, but again, I did find it in my collection. It took me a long time to tore my collection up. So, Apollo, if you're watching, this is the comic book I was talking about. This is from black and white newsprint. I got it at the it's signed on the back. Very Kirby-esque, as he always does. So that's the comic book I was referring to during that chat. So Apollo, if you're watching, that's for you, buddy. They couldn't find a picture of the copy, a picture of it during the chat, so I was able to find it. And I hit one more thing as I was looking for that. Very early. This is from '93, I think, but it's called The Detectives, and in it is detective stories. Mike Mauser, you got Johnny Dynamite, you got Maze Agency, and some other stuff going on. But this is a very cool. I'm into that kind of stuff. The Mike Mauser story is very cool. Joe Staten, I think Nick Cuddy, wrote it. But what's really cool about this is you got some reprints of some original stories, but also it's an early Adam Hughes. It's Adam Hughes cover, which it really doesn't look like Hughes to me, but the signature's right there on the book. But it's a very cool book. You can find it there. This is #1. I didn't see it in the price guide, so I don't know if it was issue 2. I couldn't find anything online about it. But it's called The Detectives. It's very cool. Nice little book. I found it for $1 a long time ago. So, but the Mike Mauser and this Johnny Dynamite story from Media Comics, that reprinted that one. I don't think it was a Charlton Johnny Dynamite because it went from Media comics to Charlton, and I like the character Johnny Dynamite. So I don't know where to reprint it from in this particular book. But that's about it for me. I hope everyone's having a good Sunday, and hope everyone is well and they stay well. And I'll talk to you guys later. Enjoy your comics. Bye.